Welcome back viewers. Tonight once more we are looking at GME because GME has seen a lot of interesting action in the past few weeks. Of course the past 5 days are presenting a very red pattern now. We are down by about 27%. That's not great at all, and it is quite a stark decrease. Again, if we do look at the pattern for the month, yes, we are still up by over 335%, but you can see that at the highs we were up by over 476%. So we really are giving away some of our gains now, and the stock is coming to a loss. Now, we have spoken about the sell-off pattern previously and how not prevalent it has been in the past few days, but in this one I'm giving you all of my opinions because now we do have a potential new catalyst coming up. If you go over to Google, we can see that Google is saying that earnings for GME are coming out on the 23rd, so that should be at some point next week. Now, a lot of newspapers, or at least online websites if you will, are reporting down here on some earnings realities apparently coming for GME. I'm giving you all of my thoughts on this, whether GME will crash on earnings or not. Again though, I am not a financial advisor, and this is only my opinion. I am not guaranteed to be right, and GME and AMCs for that matter specifically are very risky stocks. They're very hard to predict, but I'm giving you all of my opinions, looking at the facts and looking at some of the information which you might want to know in this video. So do subscribe if you have not already. But we are going to start off by looking at GME's pattern over the past few days, then focusing on one important number which I think you may want to know. So please do stick around to see what that number is. So GME in the past day, we can see that actually on the Friday, not a lot happened. We were up by 2%. It's an increase, but it's barely noticeable. It's barely even worth mentioning. In the after hours, we actually saw a relatively flat trading session for once. We can see that in the after hours on Friday, we went down by 1.8%. So that is also barely even noticeable. And that is also important in my opinion, because Friday was quite a flat day for GME. Now, if we do look at the past week's pattern, we can see down by about 28%. A lot of this drop is coming from the previous Monday, so the Monday was bringing us down by quite a bit. This sell-off continued into the Tuesday, but from the lows on Tuesday up until the Friday, we can see that the share price moved up by 15%. That is a notable increase, it's a rather large increase for a normal stock. But that is not like GME. We all know that GME does move very quickly, and it usually moves by a large amount. So to see a stock like this up by only 15% is barely even noticeable. But I think there are a lot of fair reasons for this. And another number which I do want you to focus on right now is something which we call volume. Now, I know a lot of you already know what this is, but also a lot of people do not know what this is. So for those of you in the audience who might not know what's going on, let me just explain. Volume is basically the number of traded shares in a specific time period. Now, in this video we are going to be focusing on volume per day because I think this is the most simple way in this video to sum things up. But yeah, volume is of course quite a key figure because it tells us, generally speaking, what people are doing around the stock. It tells us if people are obviously buying more shares or selling more shares, or if people are just waiting and holding. And specifically with GME and AMC, I think volume is a rather important number. Now, if we do look at volume for some context in the past few weeks and months, we can see that at the absolute highs, volume was pretty high. Of course, it was quite intense all the way up. We can see we hit very high volume numbers of about 57 million up to 197. Then went even higher to 177, 188. And of course, volume basically fluctuated consistently throughout this time period. So we can see a lot of interest via volume in that time period. But more recently, we have actually been seeing volume step down. So volume in the past few days has been about 35 million, 24 million. We can see relatively low figures. It was actually 16 million at this point here, 11 million down here, 24 million down here on the Friday. So the main thing to note about this one is that volume has been stepping down over the past few days. And volume is basically an indication to what people are doing with the shares. Now, I think a lot of this volume is selling pressure. A lot of people who are trading it are selling, and I think a few people who are buying it are also in that volume as well. Because volume, I think a lot of people may be buying this one, think that it is a dip for the stock. I think a lot of people are also nervous with this one because, let's face it, the stock has rocketed, and at some point the hype is bound to die off. I hate to say it, guys, I'm sure a lot of you don't want to hear it, but this can't carry on forever. I wish it could, and I hope this one does continue to rally, but the fact of the matter is whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's next year, whether it's in 100 years. At some point, this stock is going to die because the fundamentals for the company, they are decent, don't get me wrong, but they are not the fundamentals of a $200 stock in my opinion. That's not bad because once more there is a strong community behind it, but I think it is also important to note. But yeah, I think volume stepping down is important because it shows that not many people are doing anything, and that also shows that people are holding basically. So the fact that people are holding could indicate to the fact that this stock does still have that potential to continue to rally, as nothing is necessarily over for the stock until next week at least. So I think next week is going to be an important period for the stock for two reasons. We're going to start off with the most obvious of which is GME's earnings. So like I have said, according to Google, GME's earnings are on the 23rd, so that will be interesting. Now we have expected results generated from Google of 1.42 on the EPS and also 2.23 billion for revenue. So we'll have to see if these numbers do disappoint or if they do actually do better than people are expecting. Obviously, EPS was beaten in quarter 3, it was beaten in quarter 1, it was beaten in quarter 4 as well of previous year. So a lot of moves we have been seeing down here. And actually, revenue was down in the quarter 1, it was down in the quarter 2, and it was down in the quarter 3. But overall, EPS was up, which is still kind of good in my opinion. But what we are seeing now more and more is these news articles. We have one here from Investor Business Daily. We have one from Bloomberg. It's talking about GME crashing basically. One of them is saying that basically GME has rocketed now for quite a long time, and with earnings coming out, we could see this reality and the stock price come crashing back down as the earnings may not be as strong as people are anticipating. The other one is talking about how the stock has rallied by about 2,460% and now it is tumbling towards a reality check. I think that's fine. I think that is honestly understandable that these newspapers are writing this for two reasons. The first reason is that one, nobody knows for sure how the market is going to react to these earnings. Overall, my thoughts are, I think a lot of people aren't even too bothered about these earnings. Let's face it, the people who are in this stock are definitely not in it for the fundamentals. Perhaps they are in it because they like the fundamentals, but they're not in it because the fundamentals are strong. They're in it because they like the company, they're in it because they want to make a lot of money. So do earnings matter at that point? I don't even know, it's hard to say. We'll have to wait until that date to see if they do matter, and that will tell us all that we need to know. Again, if earnings are bad, we still do have the potential to send the share price down, but overall I think earnings, whilst important for most companies, it is hard to say the influence that they will have on this stock, because again, most investors aren't in this for the same reasons that people are in, for example, Amazon. I think that is worth noting. But overall, another reason which I think this is okay that we are seeing news articles around this is, let's face it, on the other hand, a lot of people are trying to obviously make decent headlines for their newspapers. I think that is okay as well. Let's face it, guys, I am a YouTuber, and it is in our best interest on YouTube, and subsequently as well in the news' best interest, to get the best titles that they possibly can. I think it's understandable that they could be pointing towards these doom titles, saying bad things for the stock, perhaps even saying good things for the stock, because they want to get the most views. That's understandable. But ultimately, guys, I think you do need to be cautious going into next week with GME. We just don't know how things are going to move, and that does need to be remembered, because at the moment things are pretty unpredictable anyway, and the next week could add added volatility. So if volume does step up in the next week, that could be good. It could be a good indication of the stock price hopefully picking itself back up. But I would not be buying this one on Monday. I definitely wouldn't. I would wait until the 23rd for sure to see what happens. If the sell-off does continue, it could be over, I'm going to say it right now, but obviously there is still the potential with volume being so low that the stock price could actually pick itself back up. But at the moment, I'm sure you already know, but I am going to remind you, GME is a risky investment. It's a very, very risky investment. And as long as you are aware of that, as long as you are doing the key things, such as not putting in more than you are willing to lose, not having, over ambitious expectations, you should be pretty fine with this stock. But again, I wouldn't be buying this one for the reason that it is quite risky in my eyes, and it's not necessarily the kind of stock which I am always interested in buying. But again, if you do buy maybe one or two shares, it could pay off long term. Again, though, prices are quite high, so do be cautious and don't buy more than you are willing to lose. Overall though, thank you again for another video. Again, I'll see you tomorrow for my forecast into the next week. So see you then. Goodbye, and make sure to join us around a similar time. Goodbye.